Story 1. Solitaire. I would never say, you should play solitaire. Story 2. I quit EVE Online when I realized I was calling in sick from my actual job to fulfill my responsibilities for my internet spaceship job. Story 3. FIFA, now called EA Sports FC, is a company that manipulates their players, mostly children, into spending large amounts of money every year. They are widely regarded negatively. Story 4. Rocket League. I put in 3,500 to 4,000 hours and had to stop grinding because the pursuit of perfection is endless. That game would bring me down on myself quite a bit. It is fun until you decide you want to try to get decent at the game. Story 5. Dead by Daylight is the only game I have spent a significant amount of time on but would not recommend. Story 6. Sims 4. Every time they release a new expansion pack, the words, money-grabbing bastards, go through my head. It's a money pit. You would be better off with Sims 2, which has custom world building and mainly free top-tier custom content. Story 7. Rust. You have to be truly dedicated and a bit crazy to solo that as I did. Story 8. World of Tanks. I spent years playing that game and was a genuine devotee at one time. However, the developers kept making changes based on what the elite clan players wanted, and many of these changes ruined the game for everyone except the clan members. Elite clan players represent a tiny fraction of the user base. Catering to them at the expense of everyone else was an incredibly poor decision, which is why the game's player base began to shrink. At that point, the developers thought, we are no longer growing, so we have to find new ways to monetize our existing player base. This decision generally leads to the decline of a game. Story 9. Destiny 2 is an extremely hit or miss game, even in its early days. Player versus player is poor, onboarding is bad, and the current state of the game is not good. Story 10. Elite Dangerous has great visuals, nice sound, and some cool ideas. However, most of the gameplay is boring. You spend hours grinding the same tasks to finally get the ship you want and customize it the way you like. Once you have done that, you realize there is not much to do with it, just more grinding. Each update introduces even more of the same repetitive activities. Story 11. Roblox as a kid. I am certain I spent over 10,000 hours on that platform. Story 12. I simultaneously believe that Elden Ring is a masterpiece and that there are 5 or 6 reasons that are completely reasonable to stop playing it because of. Story 13. The original Ninja Gaiden on Nintendo Entertainment System. You know why there are 1,000 hours there and why I would not recommend it. Story 14. Rainbow Six Siege is one of my favorite games of all time. I stopped playing a couple of years ago. I tried to come back, but it's just not the same. Many people complain about balancing between operators, but the complaining from the community is much worse than the actual balancing issues. Speaking of the community, it is the primary reason I can't recommend this game anymore. I played Siege extensively when it first came out, and the community was great. No one knew what they were doing. Everyone was just having fun and experimenting. That was the absolute peak in my eyes. Then, at some point, the community shifted. The people who were goofing around and having fun moved on, replaced by players who could not stand to lose. It stopped being about fun and experimentation and became focused on efficiency and meta strategies. There is nothing wrong with wanting to win, but when it comes at the cost of having fun, it's just not worth it. The entire community feels that way. Story 15. Path of Exile. It is a great game. It is a terrible game. It is so much fun. It is a difficult slog. It is rich in story and world building. It is frustrating. Every new league. These new gameplay mechanics are great. I am going to beat the game this time. 1 month later, I am frustrated with this game. Story 16. Mech Arena is amazingly fun. I still play it. However, the power balance is unfair and favors paying players. The developers wait at least a year before making paid items available with in-game currency. When they do, they release a new weapon that completely outperforms the old ones. The game used to feature high damage per shot weapons. Now, players grind for weapons with larger magazines to get through new multi-layered shields. Do not play it unless you plan to spend money. Otherwise, do not play it. Story 17. All of these comments make me very happy. I have never even tried League of Legends. Story 18 Golf. I've spent probably between $9,999 and $99,999 on golf, and I'm still stuck shooting in the high 80s or low 90s. Story 19. League of Legends had to stop playing due to toxicity and long games. Story 20. MapleStory has too much pay-to-win content. The reboot version's endgame is not very playable without cheating. Story 21. Dead by Daylight. 1800 hours. Great concept and very fun when things go right, but it can be frustrating when they don't. Additionally, the developers are sometimes questionable, and the programming is not always in your favor. Story 22. Lost Ark. The combat system in the game is amazing, but everything else, both progression and community approach, can be a major issue for most people. The only way I would recommend it is if someone is specifically looking for something similar. A game that is heavily competitive without direct player versus player combat, with a strong emphasis on swipe-aided grinding to keep up. Story 23. Summoner's War. I played it for 7 years until my friend's account was hacked. I returned for the 10-year anniversary Witcher collaboration, but it did not capture my interest again, mostly because it did not fit into my schedule. Otherwise, the game is very addictive. Story 24. Destiny 2. As much as I loved the overall experience, I cannot in good faith recommend something where large chunks of the story were removed, especially when they are still relevant today. A big part of the most recent episode is based on the rescue of a character, a rescue you cannot play anymore, so his "I am the real one" argument means nothing to most players. This is alongside a character whose introduction is not available, with the main enemy being a new form of someone else who has essentially had all evidence of their existence removed from the game. I do enjoy it in the moment, but in hindsight, it is ridiculous how much has been taken away. This does not even count the Red War and Forsaken, beyond which all the content is gone when that year's episodes are removed. I cannot fathom how the game would appear to a new player dropped into this world at this point. A couple of days later, details of the next episode are released, and again it focuses on 2 characters from a storyline you cannot play anymore. Imagine if every time a new film in a franchise was released, they erased all evidence of the old ones. How does this make sense? Story 25. Hearthstone and World of Warships should have spent 0 hours on those. Story 26. Sims 4 is a complete scam. Play The Sims 3 instead. Story 27. Any of them, to be honest. Cutting my gaming back to an hour every couple of days and spending that time on improving my life or creative endeavors has really done me wonders. I wasn't even enjoying my gaming, just going mind blank until the clock showed it. Was late enough to go to bed. I wasted so much of my life on games. Having said that, there were some amazing games, but normally, games you put hundreds of hours into aren't really great narratively. Instead, they are about grinding or repeating the same basic loop. Story 28. Diablo 3. In the end, the Diablo ladder is full of bots and cheaters. If you play, just have some fun. Story 29. Rocket League. I was solo queuing and kept getting teamed up with players I had blocked because they couldn't do anything except stare and chase the ball. I deleted the game permanently from my laptop. Story 30. League of Legends easily. I don't think an explanation is needed. Story 31. League of Legends. It has been said multiple times and should be said again. It really is the worst of the worst. Addictive and brings no joy whatsoever. The only time it is enjoyable is with a full pre-made team of friends where you just mess around and do not take it seriously. Story 32. League of Legends, of course. I stopped about 5 years ago, and by that point I had 5,000 normal games plus ranked, all random, all mid, Twisted Trillium, Dominion, and others. It was fun in the beginning, but at some point it became just a habit to play this poor game. I would not recommend it to anyone. On the other hand, I have thousands of days played in World of Warcraft. I have enjoyed every minute of it. I still play and continue to enjoy it. Story 33. Brawlhalla. I have never been happy while playing that game or afterwards. Story 34. The fact that I have yet to see Dead by Daylight here is quite surprising. That game legitimately gives you some kind of mental deterioration issues. Story 35. The game and everyone reading this has lost. Do not recommend. It is impossible to win. Story 36. The Sims 4 is a frustrating game with many bugs. Electronic Arts cares primarily about profit. Story 37. Does Pokemon Go count? I have been playing since it was released in 2016 and still pick it up to do my daily tasks. Story 38. Time clickers. Over 1,500 hours played. So much fun, but to rank meaningfully on the leaderboards you have to invest a lot of time. Story 39. Heroes of the Storm. Not because it is a bad game, but because it is not going anywhere and the plug can be pulled at any moment. I honestly hope those things change for the better. Story 40. League of Legends, do not touch it. You will never be able to let go, yet you will curse every minute of it. Story 41. Final Fantasy X, also known as Unskippable Cutscene, the game. Story 42. Marvel Strike Force on mobile is an absolute waste of time. If you are not prepared to spend money, you will struggle to obtain many characters and level them up. Story 43. Football Manager. The idea of telling people you do not actually play but effectively manage spreadsheets says a lot about you as a person. Story 44. Counter-Strike or any one of these competitive games. After a while, you take stock of your entire life and realize that you've spent 1,000 hours dedicated to a game with very little to show for it. The game has long stopped being fun. You haven't made any new friends. Your body feels terrible. Don't get me wrong. I have fond memories of Counter-Strike, but they were when I was playing with my friends. By hour 1000, you're likely playing a lot of solo queue, and your friends have moved on with their lives, mostly because 1,000 hours is a significant amount of time. Your world has collapsed into a video game and screaming into a microphone. Maybe Counter-Strike just isn't something healthy to keep in my life. Since then, I started rock climbing. I made friends and learned to socialize. My body feels better because of it. I've also started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. These days, I teach class and talk to other people about how their life is going while showing them how to throw other people. It's been over 10 years since I last played Counter-Strike, and my life is a million times more fulfilling because of it. Story 45. Final Fantasy XIV. Sure, it's a great game, but the longer I played, the more it felt like grinding. Even the difficult tasks were just learning a choreography that felt more like grinding learning than an engaging way to improve. The community is really positive, but to a fault in my opinion. There are many issues with the game, and they're all defended by arguments like spaghetti code. They can't do it better. All the in-game minigames become lackluster after some time, and it's much better to play a variety of games instead of grinding thousands of hours in Final Fantasy XIV. However, a variety of games costs a lot of money. Yes, Final Fantasy XIV also costs a lot. The base game and some add-ons are free to play now, but every expansion costs money. Plus, there is a subscription model. There is also an additional in-game store where you can purchase mounts, costumes, emotes, and so on, adding to your subscription expenses. Even without that, in the 4 years I actively played, I paid about $500 and bought additional items in the store. That was on me though. Not being able to get a house in the game was the final nail in the coffin. With over 3,000 hours played, I was one of the richer players able to get a big house. I wanted a big house forever, but the housing system was so flawed, worse than in real life. They changed it to a lottery system in which I continued to be unlucky. At some point, I settled for a small house because I realized I would never be lucky enough for a big one. Sadly, I was never able to fully decorate it as I wasn't happy with its small size. I also had a period where I played less Final Fantasy XIV and started playing many other games again. It was fun. Then I remembered that if I don't have an active subscription and don't log in every 2 months or so, even my small house disappears. After not playing for 2 months, I decided to quit, and I have not played the game at all this year. Even the new expansion left me cold. It's sad because I feel like an outsider to my in-game friends. Hanging out in Discord feels off when not playing the game, as it's their main or only game. Honestly, when it comes to gaming, I feel so much better now. I play more varied games again, and even if I enjoy hunting trophies, some of which are frustrating, it's still better than grinding for relic weapons and tools in Final Fantasy XIV. Sure, to each their own, but for me, no more Final Fantasy XIV. Story 46. Arkansas. It is not a game. It is an existential crisis simulator. Story 47. Any game I have put that much time into, I would honestly recommend. Story 48. Ark, easily. Never loved to hate or hated loving a game so much. Story 49. Destiny 2. This game had a significant impact on my life because it is addictive. At its core, it is still a good game. However, the new player experience is awful. I do not know how I got so hooked, as I joined when the experience was at its lowest, Season of Plunder. If you like this game, you will be engaged for a long time. If you do not, you will probably uninstall it after the first 2 hours. Story 50. Call of Duty. I have well over 10,000 hours across all versions, and I do not recommend it to anyone. The community, myself included, is toxic. Story 51. Overwatch is an easy game with different roles and playstyles for each character. If you do not mind paying, the skins are great. However, turn off the microphone or you will hate it. Story 52. Probably lost Arkansas. I already have a job and do not need a second one. Story 53. Ark Survival Evolved. I have 7,000 hours on that game, which is considered low among the diehard fans in that community. It is absolutely addictive. But my God, is it horrible. Story 54. Dota is not worth it, man. Takes a massive toll on your mental health. Story 55. Dota 2 is an easy game. It will dominate you and force you to keep coming back. Story 56. Lord of the Rings Rise to War. It used to be that you could succeed as a free-to-play player or low spender. Now, everyone is way too far ahead in gear and commander respect levels. It is pointless to start unless you are willing to spend $1,000 or more. Story 57. Microsoft PowerPoint. I still have to present it to my supervisor frequently. I would not recommend it. Story 58. Most games are enjoyable if played with the right people, even when aiming to reach 1,000 hours of playtime. Any game can be fun if you have a good group of friends. Whether it's Counter-Strike or Uno, playing with friends makes the experience enjoyable. Playing alone, however, often results in a less satisfying experience due to unpredictable teammates. I would likely agree with the League of Legends perspective, but I would like to add, any game where random teammates can not only weaken your team but also strengthen the opposing team. Additionally, FIFA and similar games with hidden mechanics that disadvantage players, not only financially but also in gameplay. Story 59. Brawlhalla. Toxic competitive professional plus maximum ultra maximum peak. Story 60. Surprised this is not here yet. EVE Online, they say you win it when you stop playing, but I guess you might say that of games in general. Chess.com 10-minute blitz is another I am glad to have left behind. Story 61. Dota 2 gave me carpal tunnel syndrome and caused me to lose my sanity repeatedly. Story 62. Dota 2 is a highly addictive and complex game, similar to drugs. Story 63. Rust. That game will ruin you, your social life, and your sleep schedule unless you play on modified or player versus environment servers where you do not care as much about losing your progress since you can get it back within 30 minutes. If you play the original version of Rust, you will not have the free time to play any other game. Story 64. Apex Legends. As someone who has grinded leaderboards and made top 300 in ranked, I can safely say it is not worth it. Story 65. Crossout offers great gameplay but has poor development and publishing. Story 66. Rust. At least, I do not recommend it without many warnings. At this point, it is almost better to just watch videos about it. Story 67. Civilization is a great game, but it is too absorbing. When it ends, it leaves me with a feeling of emptiness. Story 68. Surprised no one has mentioned Football Manager. I love the game, but honestly, it is addicting and you will just waste away the days playing what is basically a spreadsheet simulator. Once you are hooked, it will always be just one more game, and then it is 4 a.m. and you are at the Champions League final, which you just have to play even though you have to be up in 2 hours to go to work. Story 69. This thread is about every major competitive game in the industry. It shows that competitiveness can bring out the worst in people. I have around 2,000 hours in Dota but still love it. I play ranked and play to win, but if I lose, it's whatever. I start muting people who begin cursing or using slurs immediately and play to the best of my ability. If I lose, it's okay. If I win, then hurrah. I don't regret playing because there are so many unique mechanics that I can't find anywhere else. I am only at the legend rank, so I can't speak for higher ranks, and frankly, I am happy being where I am. Don't get obsessed about the internet status that is rank and you'll enjoy games more. Mute liberally as the feature exists for a reason. On the other hand, Rainbow Six Siege is constantly negatively affected by Ubisoft, and I wouldn't recommend it. It sucks because, as an average shooter player, it was great to play a more methodical-based first-person shooter and have many memories of me and my friends 5-stacking and the infamous "we play till we lose" nights. Story 70. League realized how unenjoyable the game was once I quit using drugs. Story 71. Destiny 1 is a great game, but it quickly feels like a full-time job. Story 72. Call of Duty in general. I used to be a pretty good player, but lately the game is infested with hackers and the developers do nothing about it. I can still recommend it for the single-player and zombie modes, but I can never recommend it for multiplayer. Story 73. Dota 2. It went from an intense test of wits to something that vaguely resembles Dota. Story 74. League of Legends. I have been playing off and on since Season 2. Because of all the champions added, the amount you have to learn is a massive commitment. This applies to items as well. Even once you learn all there is, the game is constantly changing with updates and patches, so you have to keep up with everything. The people you play with are either brand new or highly experienced, which makes it feel very imbalanced. The game is 5 versus 5. You are supposed to be working as a team, but people only care about winning their lane. Rarely do you ever get any help. That is why I stopped playing for the most part. Story 75. Warframe is not a bad game at all. I have just been playing it for 1,146 hours. Story 76. League of Legends and Defense of the Ancients. The player base is the worst on Earth. When I stopped playing, my life suddenly became better. Story 77. Rust ruins your life. Drugs are better for you than Rust. Story 78. Counter-Strike. Global Offensive / Counter-Strike 2. It is a lovely game, but the wait time is long and the players can be very toxic. Story 79. Rust is a fantastic game, but you have to be okay with putting a ton of hours into it and losing it all in an instant. Story 80. Final Fantasy XIV. Unless you are absolutely into anything Final Fantasy and love the story without any second thoughts, I would not recommend this game to anyone. The story is long and cannot be skipped unless you pay, and it actively locks you out from many types of content, such as classes, only 3 of them to be honest, dungeons, raids, features like mounts, guilds, and banks, and even skills. Yes, even if you are level 100, you can still be stuck with level 50 skills until you reach the right expansion. Worst of all, the game does not encourage playing with others, since the story cannot be done in a group, and you will be asked to disband to complete certain instanced parts. The bottom line is that new players must go through almost 1,000 quests, and they will add more to reach endgame content or unlock any content at all. It is quite difficult, if not impossible, to recommend this game to new players unless they are huge fans of Final Fantasy, in which case they will surely enjoy everything in it. The gameplay is overall decent, even if repetitive, and has become too easy after the Stormblood expansion. Story 81. Going to be a lot of Defense of the Ancients and massively multiplayer online role-playing games in here. Mine is an obscure Korean grindfest massively multiplayer online role-playing game called Lineage 2. Most haven't played it, I imagine, so I'll break it down. Levels are a severe grind, as they are with most Korean massively multiplayer online role-playing games. Early levels are quick and later levels can take months to get a single level up. It is not uncommon to fight a group of mobs and get a 0.01% increase in experience points. When you died, you lost a few percent experience points, which was brutal at higher levels. Also, when grinding, you needed to use something called soul shots, which you purchase and auto-use with your weapon. This increased your damage but drained your money. This game was basically designed for bots to farm money and for you to buy that with real cash to afford to grind and have good weapons, or you had to have your own bot farm going to supply your main character. This game sounds miserable, right? There were some good parts. The game had an intricate political and clan system. You could fight wars against other clans. You had your own clan hall that came with perks. They were limited, and you needed to pay another clan a large amount of gold to buy ownership. Every other weekend, you would have castle sieges. Alliances were made, last-minute betrayals happened, and it was complete havoc. Whichever clan took over a castle would receive 15% on everything sold in their region. You would also get unique dungeons with unique items. Plus, it was simply impressive to have a castle you could call your own when other people did not have the same. The sieges were so much fun, and you did not lose experience points when you died during a siege. I can't really explain how much fun it was to have hundreds or thousands of players fighting each other to make it to the throne room to take over, with last-minute betrayals. Alliances would be made and broken during the battle, with people going berserk over voice communication. The graphics were amazing for the time as well. They used the Unreal 2 engine and things looked great for the time. The classes were also a lot of fun. I played as a blade dancer, a class that could offer significant buffs to your party, which you had to time out and redance in proper timing and sequence to ensure you had enough mana to keep going. I had my own bot train of 5 to 6 characters and spent countless hours finding a good location that would be safe from other players and game moderators. I loved waking up in the morning and seeing what items my bot train had collected. There was also a farming system that you could compete in to get large amounts of crafting items. Crafting was a whole other set of insanity. You could increase your weapon up to plus 16 for very high damage, but each upgrade had a 33% chance of your weapon breaking and turning into crystals. Every time you clicked that upgrade button, your hands would sweat and you would close your eyes, praying for a miracle. It was very rare to have plus 16, and your weapons would glow a bright red, showing off your status. At the end of the day, I spent thousands of dollars on game currency, thousands of hours of my personal time, and I was highly addicted. Looking back, it was not worth it at all. I was in the prime of my 20s and wasting years away on this game. Now, nothing is really left of it. All my friends no longer play, my clan is gone, and my character is worthless. All those hours invested with nothing but some fun times. Story 82. Somehow League of Legends not being the most prominent answer here is beyond me. That game is terrible. Story 83. Days. Do not play. It is infuriatingly difficult, extremely frustrating, and you can spend hours trying to achieve something only to have all progress lost in a second. Still the best game I have ever played. Story 84. Destiny 2. Even 2 to 3 years ago, I was saying this because you have to be some kind of enthusiast to get into it just now, understand the story, and actually get to know the mechanics. I have played since Destiny 1 launch, so I have experienced all the story and mechanical build-up to this point and can appreciate it or dislike it. Naturally, new players have to do a lot of preparation and spend around $300 just to experience everything currently available, and I cannot recommend that to anyone. Hopefully, now that Sony is pressuring Bungie executives, they will make meaningful changes to content and new player experiences, but I am not holding my breath. Story 85. Halo Infinite. I don't know how many hours I've played it, but 343 should not be a company at this point. Story 86. Destiny 2 offers one of the best gameplay experiences I have encountered. However, its new player experience is the worst, and I would not recommend it to anyone. Story 87. Sea of Thieves. I have to take multiple week breaks from it because my blood pressure rises so much sometimes. I had a 3.5-hour galleon on galleon battle and had to smoke a cigarette. I haven't smoked cigarettes for years. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.